pricing and underwriting decisions depend mainly on one thing: how well and how fast can we turn data into action? And I think that everyone here in the room understands the huge opportunity that AI is offering to make that happen. And as you could see, during most of the session, this is the direction and the strategy that Earnix is taking. But how do we actually do that? How do we use the magic of AI to turn this vision into a reality? And this is the question that we want to answer during the next 50 minutes. So yes, during the next 15 minutes, we are going to show you how Earnix Advanced Analytics are empowering pricing, underwriting, and modeling teams throughout the entire analytical workflow lifecycle. So today we are going to walk you through the main three steps of the analytical workflow lifecycle. First of all, the data. How do we import it? How do we transform it? How do we use it? So Eyal and myself are going to present you this step for the next 20 minutes. Then we will move to the modeling stage, which will be presented by Tomer and Luba. And finally, the monitoring will be presented in the next session. So let's start with the data. But before we do that, let's introduce ourselves. So I'm Emmanuel. I'm a product manager. I joined Earnix a year and a half ago to work on a new initiative called Elevate. During my 20 years in the tech industry, I could see how technological revolutions such as AI can be leveraged to bring more value to the organization. But what I enjoyed the most as a product manager is to bring fresh eye and creativity to everything I do. Eyal?
Hi, everyone. My name is Eyal. I'm the data science team lead. I've been with Earnix for 3.5 years, working on different projects on the AI domains and modalities, such as machine learning, generative AI, and even agentic AI. And on a personal note, I can tell you that I'm very passionate and eager about bringing those cutting-edge technologies and tools for you guys, our customers. So let's begin.
OK. So let me start by asking you a question. Do you have any idea what this number represents? OK. So I know that my question is wide. So let me help you with a few options. Do you think that it is the number of seconds that it takes to transfer data between systems? For example, between Snowflake or Priceit? Or is it the number of iterations that a data scientist has to go through before the data is ready?
I must say that sounds a bit exaggerated, Emmanuel.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Maybe I pushed that one a little bit too far. Or is it the number of gigabytes that were transferred by our customer in Priceit throughout this year? So I think that at this step, you guessed. The third option is the right one. And I can tell you that this number is growing year over year. I think that Beiri even mentioned that it's actually doubled since last year. But this is a good thing, because you are a customer, you understand the power of data. You understand that more data translates to more accuracy in your models and simulations, which translates to better pricing and underwriting decisions. However, as the volume grows, the challenges are growing too. Integrating the data, reaching the right quality, keeping track of the data for governance is becoming more and more complex, let alone the security challenges that come along with that. The vast majority of our customers invested or are invested in data platforms, such as Snowflake or Databricks, to overcome those challenges. However, they are still facing challenges in connecting those platforms to their application ecosystem. And those platforms generally are not here to serve just their own purposes, but the purposes of the whole organizations. So there are always, or sometimes, data that is needed just for the need of the pricing and underwriting teams, such as safety score, traffic accidents that are not necessarily managed in those platforms, or some data transformation for last mile preparation, or maybe some experiments that I want to do before the modeling that are also not necessarily integrated into those pipelines. So we wanted to address those challenges. And to do so, we created Elevate Data. Elevate Data is a new module designed to simplify, accelerate, and scale your data management inside Earnix. With direct connection to AWS S3, Snowflake, and Databricks, you can bring more data from more sources as often as you need with just one click. It's built on the state-of-the-art infrastructure to provide you the ability to import unlimited data so that your data can scale alongside your business needs. With profiling and transformation capabilities powered by GenAI, you have the ability to assess the quality of the data from the start, automate transformation, and accelerate the path to model-ready datasets. And with Elevate Data, all the data elements that you need for price it or underwrite it are centralized in one place, version, traceable, reusable, so that you have better transparency, better governance built in by design. So today we want to show you how it works. And to do that, we thought that we would go through a use case. So Eyal, you want to present the use case?
Sure, why not? But I think I might have first my pricing manager hat on, OK?
OK.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Tomer. OK, so now that I can speak on behalf of my pricing team, I can tell you that we work with claims data of a personal auto line product, and we bring it on a quarterly basis from our systems into PriceIt, which is fine, but I'm sure we can do better. So I think that as we've heard yesterday from the sessions of Robin, Barry, and even the CSAA guys, we know that we must improve the process of refining our models and even validate the pricing strategies as frequent as possible. So in our case, we would like to move on from this quarterly basis to even monthly basis and with larger scale of data, right? So how does that sound, Emmanuel?
OK, so let me show you how you can actually seamlessly bring more data from more data sources as often as needed. So here we are inside Elevate Data in the connection section. Here, the IT manager can see the different connections that have been created to external sources so far. When they create a connection, they can insert the authentication details of the host in a way that will be accessible only to them. They can also define access to a specific database inside Snowflake to keep better control over it. They can also test the connection in order to see that it's valid. Then, the data engineers can create tables that will point to a specific element inside Snowflake. For example, motor third-party liabilities for origination. Then, they can select the connection that has been set priorly. And as we are connecting to this connection, we can then let the data engineers navigate throughout the different elements that are available and select the one that they need. We can then test the query to see that it's valid and trigger the import of the data in the background. We also have the ability to edit the query in order to provide more specific condition to the import of the data. For example, saying that we want to bring data just for a specific region. So now that this infrastructure has been set, the business user can just trigger the import of the data just by one click. So you understand, Eyal, now you can bring the data not just quarterly, but even monthly, weekly, or even daily if you want.
Okay.
Great, right? So I think that now you can put the hat off.
I'll go back to being just a data science team.
OK, so now that we saw how we can actually import the data, let's see how we can also assess and transform the data more efficiently. We can do so through the Elevate dataset. So first, we are going to create a dataset inside Elevate Data, and we will bring the data table that we created previously, the MTPL origination table. As we select this table inside the dataset, we can then use the inspect data functionality that will provide us proactive insights on the data elements that need our attention. For example, we can see that the curve value column has a lot of missing value. We can then create an SQL recipe transformation that will take care of this problem. For example, replacing the missing value by the median value of the column. Then, in the SQL query, we can put the SQL code that will enable to do the transformation, and let's say put it in the new column. We can then run the recipe on the sample or on the full data. And once it's finished running, we then can see through the inspect data that the problem has indeed been solved, the car value fixed is created, and there is no more missing value inside it. But we decided that we don't want to stop here. We want to seize the opportunity that the GenAI Studio is offering us and create the recipe assistant. So whether you are an experienced data analyst or just getting started, you have now the ability to explain what you want to do in natural language, and the recipe assistant will turn it into working code. So Eyal, do you want to show us how it works?
Sure thing. So we saw that in this data set we have features and columns such as of the car value, car brand, and many more. But I've noticed that we're missing the feature of car age, right? So let's suppose I'm not really into coding right now, or I'm just not really familiar with the SQL framework. So that's exactly when I can turn to this recipe assistant and just by vibe coding, ask it to calculate for me this feature of car age. So I will go to this recipe assistant, and if I will like the result that it will provide, I will also create a recipe out of it by executing the generated code. So in a natural language, I'm inserting my request to calculate the car age, and we see that it managed to use the registration date and the quote date to come up together with the car age. So this code in SQL seems great. I'm executing it, and
it works. Basically, the recipe assistant is created and governed by the AI Studio that was presented previously. So you will understand here that we have a great use case where we are actually using the GenAI Studio, not just to accelerate some workflows, but to actually make some advanced data tasks accessible to everyone, while keeping in mind the full control over the security, the guardrail, and the compliance that the platforms allows us to have.
OK, so that sounds great, Emmanuel, but can I take it even a step further?
OK, go ahead.
Thank you very much. So looking ahead, we want to move from simply helping our users to write their right code to actually recommending on which transformations should be applied on their data. So, I mean, by combining our domain expertise with the context of your data, we will be able to provide meaningful and tailored transformations and actions that can drive real value. And actually, that's why, I mean, exactly why we've came up with a feature called Pre-Processing Hub. So in this Processing Hub feature, we will be able to process your noisy and raw data to being ready for modeling. But wait, Emmanuel, that's not all. I mean, that's actually the easy part, OK? I mean, what's more interesting and even smarter, I must say, is that by leveraging the capabilities of generative AI, language models, and machine learning, we will be able to provide our users with suggestions, recommendations on how should they tackle their data and process it so it would be modeling ready. So without further ado, let's just skip to the demo. OK, so in the pre-processing hub, we can see that we have different kinds of models that will help us, as I mentioned, to move from the noisy and raw form of the data to something that we can model upon. So as a warm-up, we can start with dealing with the types. OK, so as you know, when you upload data sets to systems such as Parsit, it might recognize some of the types of columns, not exactly as you wish to work with them when you want to move forward for modeling. So in this case, we can see that the date of birth was detected as text, and we can treat it as date, and postal code as an integer, but we would like to treat it as a nominal feature when we move on in our modeling process. So I like the idea of those suggestions. I'm going forward with it. And then, when I'm finished, I can add it to the pipeline and actually create a recipe that will later serve me in other occasions, for example, of online and with different data sets. Moving on to another feature called null detector. We have, let's suppose we are working with data that we want to handle missing values. Okay, so the trivial part of handling missing values would be to just impute them, right? But what's more interesting and can help us even more would be to also detect those values that we should have treated them as missing values. Okay, so for example, when we look at the car model feature, we can see that variations such as of model unknown should be treated as missing value when we move forward to modeling. And the same goes for a channel that is called not registered and so on and so forth. So these ideas are, again, fine by me. I'm selecting just exactly what I want and adding it to the pipeline to create further recipes. OK, so last but not least is the semantic clustering. So here again, we have a feature that will use the capabilities of language models and generative AI. And again, let's suppose that we have some issues in our data, that we have features with a high number of unique values. So we would want to reduce this cardinality, for example, of car model from hundreds or even thousands of unique values to the specific number that we can choose here, which in this example is only 30. So just according to the semantics of those values, for example, of the car model, we can group together values that make sense. There is some logic behind those grouping, right? So in here, we can see that the Nissan models were grouped together and maybe even some other luxury models as well. I'm adding it to the pipeline again. And now, when I'm finished, I'm also executing it in Priceit, because we can work both in Elevate and Priceit. And in Priceit, we will just create the objects that are relevant for this system. And here I can see that it is a successful process. And I think that I like this journey of processing my data, which used to be a bit tedious before that.
OK, so if I understood correctly, what you are saying is that in the future, we won't just have the ability to do what we want to do more easily, but actually get suggestion on what we should do in order to improve our results, right?
You got it right, Emmanuel.
And we can connect it both to Elevate, but also create parameters in Priceit that will be synchronized. So yeah, that sounds really great. So to wrap things up, Elevate Data is here to remove the friction between your data and your decision, with the ability to put unlimited and secure data from your different data platforms. We are removing the bottlenecks. We are removing all the teams that are involved in the process. And with the profiling and transformation capabilities that are powered by GenAI, you have the ability to access the quality of the data from the start, automate the transformation, and get to model-ready dataset faster than ever. You can also connect with your data through plain language. And in the future, we will even suggest you what are the transformations that you should do to bring the most value. And we are doing everything with governance built by design. Centralized, versioned, reusable, and also with a very responsible AI through the GenAI platform. So in terms of timeline, we are currently in the early adoption phase and are planning the general availability by the beginning of 2026. So now we are ready to move to the next step into our analytical workflow cycle and talk about the modeling. And for that, I'm inviting Tomer and Luba to the stage. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Eyal.
Thank you, Manuel.